The NBA Finals are here. Pacers high-octane offense versus the historic Thunder defense. Haliburton versus SGA. Bold predictions. Which superstar gets shut down? Whose supporting cast shows up? It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night. With insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What is up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And joining me is my partner in crime, David Ramil, the host of Locked On Heat. David, what are you hoping to see in the NBA tonight as we get ready for Game 1 of the NBA Finals?
Nothing specific, man. I just think this is such an underrated matchup, and it's just two really good teams that have clawed their way to this point, and I'm just excited to see NBA Finals basketball. This is I think this is going to be a classic Finals series.
This feels like it's going to be between these two teams, the historic Thunder defense, the incredibly high-octane, dynamic, fun, fast-paced Pacers offense. It feels like it's going to be one for the ages. Nielsen ratings be damned. Forget about that. We want to thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Just head on over to FanDuel.com. And on today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night, we're going to be sharing some bold predictions for the NBA Finals. We've got some predictions from our Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder hosts, Tony East and Ryland Styles, that we would get to a little bit later on. But David, let's go ahead and tee things off. I'm going to give you first stab at it. What do you got? Hit me with one of your first bold predictions for this series and for this Finals.
I think a lot of people have tried to undermine what Indiana's offense can do, and specifically one player here that I'm looking at, and looking at the length and the size of OKC's front court. But I've got Pascal Siakam dominating that matchup versus Chet Holmgren and Hartenstein. I think Siakam is going to continue to build off of what he did in the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, we know he won the MVP for that. At the same time, this is the player that has finals experience. This is the guy who knows what it takes to win at the highest stage. I think he is as close as he might ever get throughout the rest of his career, and it's so important to continue to add to it. And while OKC is absolutely going to provide a challenge, I think Siakam takes advantage of it. He's got the speed. He knows how to be able to manipulate these kinds of defenses and be able to create points for himself. We saw how well effective he was against a solid New York defense. I just see him winning this matchup pretty easily, to be honest with you, and swinging things in Indiana's favor.
Siakam, obviously, and there was some, not confusion, but just, should he have won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP award, all that stuff. And I think there was a very legitimate argument. It could have gone either way there between him and Haliburton. But ultimately, right, Siakam has been a fantastic co-star. He has fully delivered throughout this playoff run for the Pacers. And looking at the matchups here, I do think, right, we've seen OKC kind of weaning down the Isaiah Hartenstein minutes, throughout their postseason run. And I find it so fascinating because one area that it feels like an area of weakness for the Pacers is their rebounding. And so does OKC lean into that? Do they try to go even heavier with the double bigs and try to punish the Pacers by running more Isaiah Hartenstein out there? But if you do that, then matchup wise, who's guarding who out there? Because if you're running Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren at the same time, ideally you would think that OKC wants to put Jalen Williams, J-Dub, on Pascal Siakam as the best kind of perimeter defender to try and hold his own there. But even that is not necessarily an advantageous matchup because Siakam is such a unique kind of tweener forward, right? 6'8", 6'9", good size, good length, the ability to really kind of operate from anywhere on the floor, but especially deadly in the middle part of the floor. So I do think he presents such a matchup kind of nightmare for the Thunder to try and consider. I mean, if you go small, then you maybe lose some of that matchup advantage there as far as being the bigger, better rebounding team. But then if you do go small, like, is Pascal Siakam going to be able to still punish J-Dub? That's a really fascinating dynamic. I'm inclined to agree with you that Siakam is going to find a way to punish the bigs for OKC really quickly. Or if at the very least, if J-Dub is guarding Siakam, then somebody else on the Pacers is going to be able to punish Holmgren or Hartenstein, because it's going to be a mismatch if they're guarding one of the other perimeter guys out there, on the 3-point line.
Absolutely. No, that's a great, well stated. So let's hear it from you. What do you got? Let me hear one of your predictions, man.
As historic, as incredible as this Thunder defense is and has been throughout the regular season, throughout this postseason, I don't think they're equipped for this Pacers team.
Ooh.
I don't think they're equipped to stop this Pacers team in the sense that, at least, especially here in the playoffs and all throughout the regular season, we saw this Thunder team, and they play a swarming brand of defense, right? They're constantly sending 2 and 3 players to the ball. They're forcing turnovers. They're playing passing lanes. Their defensive playmaking is off the charts, and that's what makes them such a fantastic team. And that's also what ignites their offense at times. And we've seen that on display all throughout this postseason. But it feels like in each match that they've had so far, they've been able to key in on largely one player that they've had to stop. And you can make the argument, okay, well, they'll just key in on Tyrese Haliburton. The key distinction here, though, is that this Pacers team, as a team, not a singular one player, as a team, they move the basketball so incredibly well. They playmake across the board. Yes, Tyrese Haliburton is the engine, and it starts with him, but one, you're not going to completely remove Tyrese Haliburton from a series. And if you do play that swarming defense, if you send 2 to the ball with Tyrese Haliburton and the ball in his hands, he is going to make you pay for it. He is going to make the right read each and every time. We've talked about how surgical he is with how he picks apart opposing defenses. I think he's going to pick apart this Thunder defense. And I think that if they try to play their traditional swarming style of defense, they are going to regret it. And so Mark Daigneault and the Thunder are going to have to adjust and not play the same aggressive style that we've seen them play up to this point.
That's a really good point. I think Indiana really knows how to kind of use momentum in their favor and understand how to kind of, it's almost like they move with the punch, it's like, oh, this is how you want to do it. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll adjust. We'll roll with it in such a way where we use your momentum almost against you. And in that sense, if you try to attack them and you try to use that kind of swarming defense, the ball movement, the ability to hit from the corner, I think Indiana's done such a good job shooting, I think better than any other team in the playoffs at this point from their corners. Those shots are going to be open to them. OKC gives up more corner 3-pointers than any other team. And I think Indiana is going to be able to capitalize that to a huge degree. We know about the transition game. Indiana certainly has been dominant in that regard. I think they're going to continue to do that. So it's just, despite what, as you pointed out earlier, the rebounding edge in OKC's favor, I think Indiana is so well equipped to be able to just take that and just play their style of game. They haven't been fazed by anybody. I mean, they've played some really solid teams in the Eastern Conference, and as good as OKC has been, it just seems like they know exactly how to adjust and play their style of game and find ways to win. And that's why it's going to be such an interesting matchup, but I love that. I think that's a great point out by you.
Coming up, we keep the bold predictions going. Why OKC's supporting cast won't show up in this series, and which players will make a breakout performance in their first NBA Finals. Coming up in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA Finals are here, and every night will deliver highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are showing up in the biggest moments, and how could tracking their trends help you build your next bet? You can take a look at the outright finals favorites right now. The OKC Thunder, the favorites to take it all, minus 750 to win the series, but they also have series specials available. Like, will any player break Elgin Baylor's single-game NBA Finals scoring record, 62 or more points scored in the finals, plus 7,000 odds? that wager. So for all those odds and so much more, head on over to FanDuel.com. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And continuing on here at Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen each and every day. For your next listen, go check out Locked On Pacers with Tony East or Locked On Thunder with Ryland Styles to get all of your fix ahead of this NBA Finals series. We're going to keep the predictions going strong right here at Game Night. And David, for me, I look at this series and I look at, so much has been made about the Pacers offense versus this Thunder defense. And one thing that I want to flip the script here for a moment and focus on, I've seen so much being made about, how are the Pacers going to handle SGA? Can they slow SGA down? What's going to happen there? First off, I don't think it matters because I don't think they care if SGA goes off. And this is my bold take is I think that you look at how the Pacers have defended stars to this point in the postseason. They let Giannis get his, right? Giannis, a monster in that series. Didn't matter. Donovan Mitchell was a monster for the Cavs. Didn't matter. They're going to let SGA get his. But what they're going to do defensively is they're going to stay home and stay disciplined on all the other guys on the floor, the supporting cast members for the OKC Thunder. And that's where I come away with this. My bold take is I don't think the OKC Thunder supporting cast is going to thrive in this series because I think the game plan for the Pacers is going to be, we're going to let SGA beat us. We don't care if he averages 35, 40, 45 a game. Doesn't matter. We're going to stay home against everybody else and prevent the rest of the OKC supporting cast, J-Dub, Chet, Hartenstein, from getting theirs.
That is a bold take because, that feels like you're kind of living by on the edge right there because I just think that Shai has just been so good at being able to dominate in these games. And we've seen it throughout the whole regular season too, that if he's got one of those games going where he's putting up those monster numbers, and he's certainly capable of that, they're going to win those games. They're going to be able to control. They get just enough production from everybody else, and that's fine. So I don't know if that's the right strategy there. It makes sense. But I also think that this is an OKC team that's much better than those other groups. You were talking about a Cavs team that was hurt and beat up. You're talking about a Bucks team that was hurt and beat up. And the Knicks, that was kind of the double-edged, the two-headed snake there in between Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. Those were the guys that were putting up the numbers, OG, et cetera. Those guys were capable of it, but you weren't too worried about them. And I think they knew that Indiana knew that their offense was good enough so that they could withstand whatever it was that the Knicks threw at them. I don't know if that's the right strategy. You look at what Shai can do, and he's just so dangerous. And I think they have that ability if given their defense. And I know what we were just talking about in the first segment. And at the same time, this is just how they've operated all season long, where they can shut opposing teams down so quickly and then go on these 15-2 spurts that control the tempo of the game and just blow the thing wide open. And if they allow Shai to get that kind of momentum, it almost feels like they're tempting fate a little bit too much. And I don't know if that's a strategy that's going to necessarily work. I can see what you're saying, that they've allowed these other superstars to beat them, knowing that the supporting cast isn't strong enough. OKC's supporting cast is. You've got another all-star in Jalen Williams. You've got experienced players, guys that can shoot from the perimeter, that can attack the paint, et cetera. There's a lot to be concerned with when you look at OKC's depth. And so I don't know. That is a bold prediction. At the same time, I don't know if they're going to use that strategy, and if they do, I don't know if that's going to necessarily work for them.
Well, the other element of that is the 3-point shooting angle here. Is I also really think that I won't jump the gun on my next one here. You know what? Hit me with your next bold prediction. What you got for me?
We're talking about superstars here, and maybe this ties into what we were talking about in the first segment. But I think Tyrese Haliburton gets brought down to earth a little bit. I think OKC is going to target him to the same degree that maybe Indiana is not going to target SGA. I think they're going to try to take away the head of the snake. And while that might not be enough to stop Indiana's offense, and I think that's certainly going to be the case, we're going to see a reversion to, his struggles early in the season. Tyrese has been phenomenal, despite not winning conference finals MVP, I think we all saw his impact in those moments where he kind of just shifted the game because of those deep threes, because of his playmaking ability. You use the word surgical. We've talked about that before. I think they're going to try to find him and take him out of his element so that he can't be that dominant factor, forcing everybody else to step up. And I think Indiana's certainly capable of, but I think we're going to see a Tyrese Haliburton that might surprise some people because he is young, because he has never been on this stage before. I don't think he sniffs 22 points per game. I think he comes under that average to a pretty highly, to be honest with you. And I think while he's still going to be able to get his assist numbers up and things of that sort, he's going to be able to make an impact in his own way. His scoring has been so vital for Indiana to be able to just create that extra edge they needed, especially in clutch situations. I don't think OKC is going to give him that chance to be that kind of factor the way he was against other teams.
Certainly. I mean, you look at the numbers and the record backs it up. The Pacers are 25-3 this season when Haliburton scores 20 or more points. So if you're able to, like you said, cut the head off the snake and in particular, prevent Haliburton from scoring, because that's when it feels like the Pacers are actually at their best, is when he's scoring the basketball. And, he's such an elite facilitator and he wants to get his teammates involved. For me, I think that strategy it has the chance to work, and it's going to put a lot of the onus on the other four guys on the floor to not simply try, not saying that the other guys aren't. There's so much talent on that Pacers team. There's so much insane shot making on that Pacers team where on any given night, Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, Turner, like they're all shooting just blistering percentages from beyond the arc, right? And the Pacers are going to have some games where they just are unconscious from three, and it won't matter if you're trying to blitz Haliburton, if you're trying to force the ball out of his hands and force other guys to beat you, because if the Pacers are hot, they're going to be hot, and there's no changing that. But what I will say is, I think that the Pacers are such an unselfish team, top to bottom, and especially across their starting lineup. Their synergy, their ball movement across five of those guys in their starting unit. I think the important element here is going to be if the Thunder do try to get really aggressive by removing Haliburton from the game, by sending to the ball, by blitzing him, then it's going to be up to the other four guys on the floor for the Pacers to recognize that and not just accept, you're going to remove our best player. It's going to have to be, okay, Haliburton starts the action, ball gets out of his hands because you're blitzing the pick and roll or something. And then how do you relocate? If you're Haliburton, how do you relocate? How do you get the ball back later in the possession so that you can still be effective? How can you relocate to the 3-point line, get the ball back with, under 10 seconds to go, what have you, and then have a shot to still be effective offensively? If you're Haliburton, you can't be okay with being removed from the series. And that's going to be a big element at play here for sure.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, and how does he take advantage of those matchups? You got Lou Dort, you got Alex Caruso, great perimeter defenders both. And I mean, again,
Jason
as
Wallace.
you mentioned before. Yeah. I mean, they've got so many different bodies that they can throw at you that even if Haliburton winds up having one of those games where he can create the advantage in his favor, maybe get some fouls, you've got other defenders, multiple defenders, and their scheme is so effectively and has been throughout the whole season. That's going to be a tough one. And that's why I'm just not expecting a dominant performance from Haliburton in this series the way that we saw throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Coming up, our final set of bold predictions, as well as who the series winner will be, finals MVP, and more. We're going to get there in just one moment. And final segment here at Locked On NBA Game Night. We're going to get to our NBA Finals series predictions here in just one moment. But we've got a pair of predictions from our Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder hosts. We're going to run those back right now and then react to them. So let's go out to Locked On Pacers with Tony East first.
Your host of Locked On Pacers at the finals. If you want a bold prediction, I think the Pacers are going to make the Thunder defense not look quite as good as people think it can be. Not that I'm saying it will be a make the Thunder defense look bad kind of thing. The Pacers are going to roll all over, but the Pacers offense has just had this ability with their random style, their fast pace, the way they play, to make lots of defenses look really bad. Even the best ones in the league. Eventually someone disconnects. Eventually something goes wrong. And the Thunder were a good defense against the Pacers this season, but their offense is what led OKC past Indiana during the regular season. I think the Pacers' offensive style is still going to hold up against this amazing, incredible OKC team, and it's going to force them to be reactive or make some changes in a way could extend this series beyond what a lot are predicting. A lot of short series predictions. I don't agree with that, even though I understand why the Thunder are being picked and why their defense is elite. But the Pacers offense is fantastic and has been the whole playoffs. I think you can expect more in this series.
Tony sounds a lot like me. Great minds think alike. How do you feel about that, David?
No, I mean, I think it's a great point. I think you kind of tend to, you see what OKC has been able to accomplish, and it's easy to just make that quick prediction about their defense because it has been so dominant. But yet, I think you're both spot on. That I think Indiana knows exactly how to manipulate those things in their favor, and I think it's going to be a really interesting series that isn't going to be just as easy to wrap up as a lot of people might be thinking. And that's why, look, we talked about this last week off air. A lot of people dismissing this series because, the two small market teams or what have you. And, you joked about the Nielsen ratings at the beginning of the show. I think this has the potential, as I said earlier, to be such a great, fun series. Like, if you love basketball, and I don't know who listens to this podcast and isn't in love with basketball, this should be so much fun. Like, this is two teams that have never been in this position before. Like, the Pacers haven't been to the finals in a long time. Obviously, the Thunder haven't been there since 2012. There's so much to look forward to. All these different names. You have two young stars on the rise. You've got veterans. You've got great coaching. There's so much to like about this series. Why would you want to believe that this is going to be a series that is over in 5 games? I wanted to play 7 minutes to the very last. I want to go triple overtime in Game 7. That's what I want. I want this to be as much fun because this is the last games of the season, and I want to enjoy it as much as I can.
This is absolutely going to be a series for basketball sickos. Like, if you're a true diehard fan of basketball, you're going to love this series. This is going to be the one. Like, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's going to be an instant classic. All right, let's hear what Ryland Styles from Locked On Thunder had teed up for us.
My bold prediction for the NBA Finals is that people are underrating the Indiana Pacers. This is not going to be a sweep. It's not going to be a 5-game series. The Pacers are going to have a couple of games where they get red hot from beyond the arc, and they force the Thunder's defense to bend in ways that they haven't done yet this season, testing them by making sure that they capitalize on those open corner threes that OKC so willingly lets up and forcing the Thunder to make adjustments. However, the Thunder are so good. They're so talented. They're such a juggernaut that they will make those adjustments and still win this series, but it'll be OKC in 6 in this series. Not a quick one at all, and a very competitive one. Second bold prediction, Thunder point differential in this series, they'll be a +5.
Ooh, okay. So a pair of them from Ryland there. Plus 5 point differential. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, their defense just has been so good. Like, why wouldn't you just go to what you think works? I'm a little bit more surprised that he thinks he can win it in 6. But you know what? I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of what we've seen from this Thunder team and how they've played out. So +5 differential. I mean, I don't know. That feels like it's dismissing Indiana's offense or in those 2 games. If this series does go 6 as Ryland predicts, those Pacers games probably will be much more likely to be dominant offensive performances from Indiana. Although that's not how they won games against New York City. I think New York Knicks. I think they're going to have to be able to just blow the doors off this Thunder team, which is not something that seems likely, but that's really your only chance at winning. You're going to have to be able to be incredibly dominant on the offensive end. I don't know.
It's so fun. To be fair, in some of those games where the Pacers did win against the Knicks, it felt like they certainly won against all of New York City. So I don't think you were. I think it's a very apt Freudian slip, I guess. All right, David, hit us with your final bold prediction before we get to our series predictions and then our picks for Finals MVP.
You mentioned SGA going up. I think Jalen Williams is going to have a fantastic series. I don't think there's anybody there on the Indiana side of things that's going to be able to defend him to that level. I think they are going to target SGA. I think they're going to, even if they allow him to get his points, I think this creates so many opportunities for Williams to get his, and they just don't have anybody on the Indiana side that can challenge him as effectively. I know he's struggled a little bit. He's still been impactful in the previous playoff series, but I just think his scoring is going to be taking up a notch there, and I think he's going to be able to connect from the perimeter a lot more effectively than he has. So I see him being a much better scorer than he has been, and much more dominant X factor in Oklahoma City's favor.
I could see is, this is like that perfect opportunity for a guy like a J-Dub to really, like, he's obviously, taken off, all-star this season, and, carved out a name for himself as one of the upcoming stars in, today's NBA landscape. But this is that perfect opportunity for him to show up and, make a name for himself here in the finals, right? And be, that co-star, and, talking about which co-stars are going to show up. And we know that Pascal Siakam has been a fantastic co-star for Tyrese Haliburton throughout this entire Pacers postseason run. But for J-Dub, I could see it happening. I still am curious, again, just from a schematic perspective, just seeing, what the defense is going to look like. Is he going to have the opportunities to step up against this Pacers defense? I like it. I like the prediction, and I think that he is more than talented enough to be able to do it. And there might even be a couple games that, he is the not yes. I won't say the exclusive X factor, but he's like the maybe the best player on the floor for the Thunder. I could see that happening depending on, SGA's performance, and if the Pacers do elect to maybe pivot some things, trying to slow SGA down, trying to make anybody else other than SGA beat you, which would be the inverse of my prediction for how I think they're going to handle the series. So we'll see how that one plays out. For me, we've talked a lot about, and I feel like there's a conversation centered on both of these teams, right, about how young they both are. Talking about the experience factor in particular with the OKC Thunder. This Pacers team does have a bit more experience than the Thunder do, but not by much. Like, there's a lot of experience on both sides of the ball here. But one thing that I don't think has been talked about enough maybe is that I think the Pacers have a clear coaching advantage with Rick Carlisle. Maybe not a clear coaching advantage. Again, I'm not trying to disrespect Mark Daigneault. He is an incredible coach, but Rick Carlisle is a championship head coach. He's been there. He's won a title. He has won at the highest of levels. We've seen him make fantastic adjustments throughout this postseason series or postseason run for the Pacers. We've seen him be able to adjust depending on how other teams are trying to slow them down. We've seen the Pacers enact this high tempo, insane pace, which is not normal for the postseason, right? This is this whole offensive identity that they have where they take the ball out of the basket on made shots, and then they're going down on the other end and scoring layups and getting the points right back. I can't remember the last time we've seen a team, if ever, do this in the postseason. And so I think I'm going to give a little bit of an edge here to the Indiana Pacers in the coaching department. And I think that's certainly going to play into the potential outcome of this series, where I do think that this is going to be a significant chess battle between Daigneault and Rick Carlisle. And I fully expect Rick Carlisle to get the better of Daigneault in at least a few of the, maybe more than just a few games in this series.
No, I think that's spot on. I really think that that's something that's not being talked about enough. Having been fortunate enough to cover an NBA Finals a couple of years ago when Miami took on Denver, I know the noise is so overwhelming. There's just so much more of it. Like, you cover a game and it has nothing to do in the regular season, what you see in the regular season versus the NBA Finals. It's more akin to like the monstrosity of All-Star Weekend, where there's just so much going on and you can't make heads or tails out of what's taking place there. And so from a guy like Carlisle and his staff, as experienced as they are, I think that's such a huge factor. They know how to make these preparations. Again, it's not to say that Daigneault can't make these adjustments, but there's probably going to be a point where he might find this a little overwhelming. And that being the case, everything kind of swings in Carlisle's favor. And I think he is also an underrated coach himself. I mean, having won with the Mavericks in 2011, I think he's much more suited and better prepared for this opportunity than Daigneault is, and that's all it takes. All you're looking for is one slight advantage in your favor, and if you can capitalize on that at this high stage, then it could make all the difference. And we've seen this time and time again, where despite having perhaps more talent or better depth or so much more that might be on paper something that would make your team seem like the obvious champion, we've seen other coaches take advantage of those opportunities and find a way to win against all odds. And I think that's something that's going to definitely swing in Indiana's favor.
Different things like closing with Obi Toppin against the Knicks, or inserting Tony Bradley to start using him to try and, slow down, Karl Anthony Towns, like just different little small adjustments here and there that, you've seen Carlisle make throughout the playoffs.
Thomas Bryant Finals MVP. How about that?
there we go. Now we're
That's
really
bold.
cooking with the bold. Yes. Oh man. All right, let's get to our actual series predictions here. So we heard Ryland a moment ago. He said OKC in 6. David, how are you feeling? Where are you at? Who you got?
I can't seem to go away from that. That's where I was before the conversation, and listening to you really talk about it, you've kind of shifted my mindset a little bit. And as much as I think Indiana makes this series much more interesting, I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to say Thunder in 6.
Thunder in 6. Okay. All right. So I didn't sway him enough. All right. Well, then maybe if you've been listening to this whole conversation, you made it to this point of the podcast, it might be less of a surprise as the direction that I'm going, but I've got Pacers in 7. I really believe in this Pacers team. Like, there's something about the run that they're on, the style of play. This Pacers team is one of the most entertaining, interconnected basketball teams that we've seen. They're right up there with like the 2014 Spurs, the 2004 Pistons, just the way that they are greater than the sum of their parts. And that's not to diminish the fact that Tyrese Haliburton is absolutely a superstar, that Pascal Siakam is absolutely an NBA champion and an all-star in his own right. But just the way that they play as one cohesive unit, where it's not just all on the shoulders of one guy. Like I can't remember the last time, really, again, except for those two teams as maybe the examples, where it felt like the workload was so evenly distributed across all 5 guys in the starting lineup. And also the Pacers bench has been such an integral part of their success, their depth, right? Generally, we get to the playoffs, we get to the postseason, and it's all shutting up rotations and sticking with your best 7 or 8 guys. And the Pacers are kind of showing the opposite of that. And credit to the Thunder as well. They're kind of doing the same. These are two both incredibly deep teams, and they might actually be kind of on the cutting edge of, maybe a new era of NBA basketball, where you don't prioritize just having, your best 7 or 8 guys and running them into the ground, all season long, and then getting to the playoffs and they don't have the juice to be productive, and instead expanding and having a competent 9, 10, 11-man rotation that you can rely on. So I'm going Pacers in 7. That's my call. You've got Thunder in 6. Who's going to be your finals MVP then, David?
Thunder in 6. I think it's still going to be SGA.
Thomas Bryant?
somehow in the losing
against all odds.
That would be truly a shocking development there. But no, I got SGA winning it at 6.
All right. If Thunder win at 6, and then for me, I'm going to say it'll be the atonement for not winning it in the Eastern Conference Finals, but it's going to be Tyrese Haliburton wins Finals MVP if the Pacers win it in 7 games. I got one more sneaky prediction for you, David. I think the Pacers take game 1, and everybody's going to overreact after the Pacers take game 1.
Oh, that's juicy. I love it. That's it. It throws them off. Again, we were just talking about the incredible heat that Daigneault is going to have to feel in these NBA Finals. Imagine losing game 1 and all that noise about, oh, this is such an inexperienced team. It's just going to be magnified, and you have those 2 days of rest, and you're never going to be able to hear the end of it. You start having doubt creep in. That's all it takes, baby. That's all it takes. That's a scorching hot take. You should have let off with that one.
One more bold prediction would be the Pacers finally win a game 3. They've lost every single game so far. So one more take is, hey, they'll win. They'll actually take home a game 3 finally. All right, that's going to do for our edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks so much for being here with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. For your next listen, go find the Locked On team. Go check out Locked On Pacers, Locked On Thunder. Get ready for all the NBA Finals action with Tony East and Ryland Styles. Until then, we will catch you guys on our very next game night.